What's going on, guys? Paul Scheer here. If you're new to the channel, I'm sitting in my 2018 Ram ProMaster. I fully built this out without any experience. This is the second van I've built because I now sell them. If you're interested in the profit margins that I make, I have a whole video going over that. It's linked down below. There's also a tour of this van that's linked down below. For today, we're going to be looking at the expense of the actual build itself. So I'm going to show you my Google Sheet stock here. That'll also be linked down below, so you can reference that if you'd like. I'm going to go ahead and do a screen record so you can see what I'm looking at here. So let's go ahead and dive in. I did forget to mention, if you like what you see in the video, they're all linked down below, all of the items. So if you do want to put it in your van, you can buy it from my links. As you can see, I have columns here, so I categorized it into different things. Towards the end, I got a little lazy, but I'll go over that later on in the video. But we have all of our totals down here, and then we have the grand total right there. So don't let that number freak you out. That includes the cost of the van as well as my travel to go get the van. So let's go ahead and subtract that. We'll take the grand total of $65,472.76, and we're going to subtract the cost of the van plus some other things I had to do to the van. So $45,319.61 plus it was in Florida and I'm in California, so I had to go get it. So we'll subtract the travel column, which is $898.51. So the build itself cost $19,254.64. Now looking at the van in here, that's actually not that bad. I have high-end batteries in here. All the appliances are high-end, the Dometic AC and heat. We have the dual zone fridge and freezer. Custom windows that I installed myself. So you can really cut this cost down, and that's exactly what I'm going to show you right now. So looking at the first column, we have electrical here, and the first one just says solar, but it's actually more than that. So it's $1,575.04. Now that's going to include, there's 4 100-watt panels on the roof equaling 400 watts. And then there's cables that come down into the solar charger, which regulates the energy before it goes into the lithium phosphate battery, which is 100 amp hours. And then that also is going to include the 1000-watt inverter. Now I got all of that from Renogy. Renogy is a great company. I highly recommend you look into their products. I'm not affiliated with them at all. I don't even have 100 subscribers, so they want nothing to do with me. But their products are great, they're extremely user-friendly, and their customer support is very responsive. On a side note, on my first van, I sent them a little panic email because I was just freaking out. I was so intimidated with doing the electrical, and they really helped me out. So it's a great company. Highly recommend them. Their products are great. On another side note, I'm going to do a video explaining the electrical. I'm just going to do like electrical for dummies, because if you haven't done it before, the electrical is going to be the most intimidating and daunting task, and it's actually really simple, and I wish that I had a video explaining that to me and showing me that when I started. So $1,500 for all of that isn't that bad. I mean, that's almost all the electrical. We have some miscellaneous wire costs, which you can't really avoid. The shore power, so that's just the 30 amp outlet, it's not bad, 50 bucks. The isolator, this is a cool feature. Obviously you can see it was only $163. The isolator, I'll link it down below, but basically what you can do is hook it up to your car's battery. So when you flip the switch while the car is on, the car's alternator will charge your auxiliary battery. I highly recommend you do that. It's a great selling point. It's cheap, it's not hard, and it's just a really cool way to charge up your battery. You could even do that and bypass the solar if you didn't want to use solar. Now looking at the floor, we have the subfloor, which was 1/4 inch plywood, which is not cheap right now. The vinyl planking's not cheap, but it's not too bad. It's $261, and the floors look great, so I wouldn't try to save money on the vinyl planks. There's just some trim, some paint. I had to buy a rubber mallet, so that wasn't too bad. That was $500. The insulation's pretty cheap. I insulated the van with spray foam on the floor underneath the subfloor, and then on the walls and the ceiling I just used sheet foam insulation. It's pretty cheap from Lowe's. It comes in an 8 feet by 4 feet sheet, so you can cut it however way you want, and you can just use spray adhesive or any kind of adhesive to just stick it to the walls wherever you can, in between studs and behind the walls. Now finally we can start looking at how you can save money. So looking at my exterior column, we have a total of almost $7,000. Now this is where you can really cut this cost in half. Buying a ladder, it was $242. That's obviously optional. It is nice having a ladder. However, another alternative is you can buy one of those telescopic ladders, so they extend and contract when you need to, and you could just store it in the van and then use it when you need to. You don't really need to go on the roof that much. It is cool up there. I have a rooftop deck, so that is awesome, and you do have to clean the solar panels, but if you want to save some money, you can just get one of those ladders. Now looking at the roof rack, I spent $741 on a custom roof rack for this van, which is actually not that bad if you compare it to companies like Illuminess, where they sell them for like $3,000. However, on my first van, I actually built my own with Struts and rubber engine mounts, so you could definitely do that. I also know people that don't even have a roof rack. They just have their solar panels on the roof, so you can totally get around not having a roof rack. This was another big one, so I installed running boards on the sides. So we have $463.16 spent on running boards. I'm 26 years old. I don't need those. However, my clientele are typically in the higher 50s, in the 60s. They do need those because it is a decent step up into the van and down out of the van, but you don't need those. The fan, I bought the most expensive fan on the market because I thought it was worth it. I spent $338.94 on a Maxxair Fan. It has 10 speeds, it blows in and out, and there's also a thermostat. So when you leave the van, if it goes above, I believe it's 78 degrees Fahrenheit, the fan can kick on and it can cool off the van while you're out hiking or doing whatever you're doing. However, you don't need a fan, and if you want to, you can find cheaper ones for about $100 that'll be either like a 1 or a 3 speed, so that is an option. However, I would try to get a van that can blow out as well as in, or at least out, because that way you can crack a window, get a draft going, or if you're cooking, you can blow the smoke and the steam and the fumes out. So here's another big one. I installed a Dometic AC and heat unit. It's really cool, but you don't need it. It cost over $1,100, and if it were my van, I personally would be doing a lot of boondocking, and you can't use it unless you're hooked up to shore power or running a generator anyway. So you really don't need the AC and heat. It's nice, not a necessity at all. Here's another big one. Windows. So I spent $2,937.71 on custom windows. Now, I really do like the windows in this van. I have wraparound windows that go all the way around and most of them open, but god dang it, were they not cheap. So I spent almost $3,000 on windows that I had to install myself, and I had never done that before, so that was about 2 weeks of strenuous, kind of stressful work. There's no room for error. You can't fix cuts. There's hot metal shavings just flying everywhere. If you do want a window or two in your van, you can get them for around $300 to $400 a piece. So if you wanted to just do one window, totally doable. Also, the smaller windows that go on the sides, those are a lot cheaper. I bought the biggest windows you could get. So now moving down through the exterior some more. It's just some miscellaneous tools and tape. I bought a Patio Light, so it's an LED dimmable light on the outside. It only cost me $63. That's pretty cool. So another item on here is I built the roof deck, like I mentioned, and that cost me a lot, and it also took about 3 weeks of labor. So looking at the roof deck, I spent $179 on the planks, as well as $184 on the steel brackets. So I had to use angle irons to make brackets and drill them into the roof rack so I could make a frame for the planks to sit on, because otherwise the planks would just bend in between the roof rack. So now I'm going to go ahead and subtract the ladder, the roof rack, the running boards, the AC, the windows, and I'm going to subtract the planks and the steel brackets that I used for that roof deck. So looking at the cost now, we only have $13,387.74, and I didn't subtract the Maxxair Fan because I do think those are nice, but you could get one for about $200 cheaper. So now scrolling to the right, we have the travel in the van, which we already took out, some miscellaneous tax stuff. The plumbing was pretty cheap, so the water tank, I spent $112.06 on the water tank, and I actually didn't even end up using that water tank because there were plastic shavings on the inside and it broke my pump. So I had to replace the pump. I ended up not using the tank. So I ended up spending only about $25 or so at Walmart, getting two 6-gallon tanks instead. Looking at the water pump, it is a nice water pump. I wouldn't go with a different water pump. It was $91, not bad. I also went with a high-end faucet, which was $65.99. You don't need to use that faucet. I really liked the way it looked and I used it on the first fan, but you can get cheap faucets and cheap sinks. So I didn't subtract anything out of that column because yes, you could get a cheaper faucet, but this one was only $66, so keep that in mind when you're looking at the total. So now looking into my interior miscellaneous categories, I got a little lazy with Google Sheets and started just making columns for random things. But we're gonna go ahead and take a look. So looking at the walls, I used plywood, 1/4-inch plywood, so can't really get around that. Paint tray, paint rollers. I used faux leather for a lot of the upholstery work. So I used spray adhesive and kind of cut it to size and then put seam hider on the side. It is a great way to hide trim. I do think that's one thing that can make your van stand out from a lot of other DIY vans, your trim work. So are you hiding where things end? Like for example, where the wall meets the edge of the metal, how are you hiding that? Where two pieces of wood meet, are you putting a piece of trim there and then are you rubbing caulk in between the trim and the wood? So I'm gonna go ahead and leave that in there because I think it looks nice and you could do it. Continuing to move down, we have shelf brackets. I didn't even use those. I bought brackets for floating shelves and ended up not even using them. So let's go ahead and subtract that. Now moving down, you have the propane detector, a smoke alarm. You're gonna need those. You could probably get them cheaper than what I have here, but that's just what I ordered. Now here's one, the stove and oven. I spent $227.06. Now this is a really nice stove and oven. I do really like it. However, you don't need it. You could get 2 burners for super cheap. You could even get them used. I mean, you could browse Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist and find whatever you want. Everything I used was brand new and I tried to get the nicest things I could. So let's go ahead and subtract the stove and oven. So moving down, I spent $137 on some 12-volt rear fans. I really like these fans. They have 3 speeds and it's 12 volts, so it's hooked right up to my fuse box and then gets power from the battery. So these are pretty sweet, but they're not cheap. So let's go ahead and subtract those because they are not a necessity. And now moving down, we have the strainer for the pump. You're gonna need that. It makes sure nothing gets in the pump like mine did. So moving down, I had the propane adapter that cost me $20. This was for my outdoor shower. I am not a huge fan. I probably wouldn't use it that much, but it is a cool feature. Let's go ahead and subtract the outdoor shower costs because you don't really need that. So now moving down, we have the second water pump, which was $61. This is also for the outdoor shower, so let's take that out of there. The next item is my sink. So I spent a lot of money on the sink. It was $317.57. I really like this sink. It's from Ruvati. It has the cutting board cover, so it utilizes extra storage, extra counter space. It has a strainer, and it's a deep sink, and it just looks nice. But wow, it was not cheap. Now moving down, we have some more miscellaneous stuff. So there's a cable hole cover, just like some more trim stuff. USB ports, those are cool. We'll leave that in there. It's $35. SureFlow adapter, that was for the outdoor shower secondary pump, so I'll take that out of there. Propane tanks, so I spent $308 on propane tanks. I have 3 5-pound propane tanks. I really like them because they're small, so they're easy to carry and easy to store. However, you could get a bigger propane tank for much cheaper, probably like $30 or $40. So that's a big expense. I'm gonna take that out. The next item, we're looking at gray tanks. That was $25. You're gonna need that. The mattress, I actually got a good deal on the mattress. It was $255. So it's from Zinus. It's a 6-inch memory foam and it was a full-size mattress. It was really easy to cut, and then I actually paid someone to upholster the cushions for me. I didn't want to learn how to upholster things. That just seemed like something that was not my cup of tea. So we'll go ahead and leave the mattress in there. The fridge, this is something that you could save money on. I spent $810 on my winter dual zone 62-quart fridge and freezer. I do really like this fridge. It's got the dual zone, so you can do fridge and freezer, and there's a control panel where you can control the temperature for both. So you could do like double fridge, double freezer, or small fridge, big freezer. You can set it to whatever you want. You could cut that cost down. However, I'm going to leave it in there because you are going to have to buy a fridge. But if you wanted to save money, which is why you are here, you could also just buy a mini fridge and plug it into your inverter. Because if you look on Facebook Marketplace, you can get a mini fridge for like $30. With that said, the mini fridges that are normal household appliances, they do pull a lot of power. Just a heads up, that is going to affect how much energy you have. So now here's a big one, the table leg. So this cost me $536.14. It is a pretty sweet table leg. However, on the first van, it only cost me $250, and they marked up the price for no reason, and I was a sucker for it. But you do not need that. You could do a platform bed. You could also just do a normal like boat leg where you take it off and put the table down and then store the leg. And that's only going to cost you like $60 if you get it used. So let's go ahead and take that out. Now the next item is propane mounts. So that's going to be for the propane tanks. These weren't cheap, but they are nice. They mount the propane to the cabinet. So we'll go ahead and leave that in there. The shower heater was $209. Since we're taking out the hot water heater and the outdoor shower, I'll go ahead and take that off too. So I got a pretty affordable toilet. It's just a portable toilet that was highly reviewed on Amazon with the Sani packs. That cost me $95. I'll leave that on there just because most people do want a toilet. $63 on spray paint. We'll leave that in there because you're going to have some miscellaneous paint charges. The blinds, I got custom blinds for $763.31. I love these blinds. They look great. I love how they came out in my build. However, that is a lot of money. So since we're taking out the custom windows, let's go ahead and take those blinds out too. If you do have windows, there's much cheaper ways to go about having blinds. Like you could do a curtain rod with little curtains and hem them so they're short. You could also just do what I did for the sliding door. So I had 1/2-inch sheet insulation and I cut it to size and then had it upholstered with magnets. So then I spent a little bit on the window frame and window trim. We'll take that out. I have some miscellaneous hardware, a hose for the shower. I'll take that out. Screws and spackle, some miscellaneous stuff, some screws, hinges, all this you're probably going to have to buy. It's just random hardware. Then we have some more outdoor shower stuff. We'll take that out. Electrical miscellaneous, you'll probably need that. It's probably just wires and wire connectors. Like I said, I got a little lazy. Bead paneling for the door, it's just more wood. The table, that's wood. Counter end caps was $99.92. So I bought laminate countertops, and to hide your cuts on the sides, there's little strips that you stick on and file down. They're not cheap. They do look nice. I'll go ahead and leave that in there, even though this is an expensive countertop. So the next item, we have the ceiling costing $191.55. I went with white shiplap and then painted it white over all the nails. I really like the way it looks. However, you could do cheaper options, but since that is just a lumber cost, we'll go ahead and leave that in there. So now moving to the next couple columns, we have some more miscellaneous stuff. We'll take this outdoor shower thing out. Gorilla Glue, you're probably going to need to buy some of that. Fabric for the cushions, I spent $265.17 on just fabric. So as I mentioned, I had the cushions upholstered. I didn't know how expensive fabric was, but it is expensive, just a heads up. And then I also had to pay the upholsterer guy a decent amount of money. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave the fabric in there just because you are gonna need some fabric for your cushions. However, if you did wanna save money and had a platform bed, all you need is a sheet, and we all know how cheap those are. The next item is the heat strip. This is for the Dometic AC and heater. I had to buy a separate little piece for the Dometic AC to turn it also into a heater. It's a little coil that heats up, so let's go ahead and take that out. The next item is a battery charger. This was also from Renogy for $150.84. So this is a whole separate charger. When you're hooked into shore power, if you plug it into my 110 outlet, which is also on the shore power, it'll charge your auxiliary lithium battery as well. So I'll go ahead and leave that in there because that is a cool little thing. Curtains and rods for $75. These are the front and back curtains here, so it's just a tension rod with curtains that I bought from Bed Bath & Beyond. You're probably going to get something similar, so let's go ahead and leave that in there. Cabinet struts for $98. These are on the cabinets. They're little struts that keep the cabinet open. There are other ways you could go about it. However, I do recommend using these. It's only $100 and they look really nice. They have a professional look and they're just extremely functional. So the upholstery cost me $485. So I spent almost $500 to have my cushions upholstered. If you wanted to learn how to do it, you could. You could also just have the platform bed where you just have the sheet. Either way, let's take that out because if you're trying to save money, you could learn how to do that yourself. So now looking at the last two columns, I got really lazy and didn't even label them. However, I know what these charges are. It's just miscellaneous things, some more wood, some more screws, probably a few more tools and glue. One thing I do want to point out is the $559.39. This is the really nice countertop that I installed, and it's not that expensive. I just had to buy two because I messed up the cut even though I've done it before. So I'm going to go ahead and take that out. But with that said, you should expect some errors. You're going to have to redo some things and probably do some extra cuts and buy more wood. But there are a lot cheaper ways to go about putting a counter in, so I'm going to take that out. So now looking at the total, we only have $9,330.71. The best part about that is you can make a van look really nice on a budget, because what makes the van look so nice is how much work you put into it. Like I said, did you use trim? Did you use the right colors? Were you able to cut straight? Because the only things we took out were things that weren't really essential. Remember, we took out windows, we took out blinds, we took out expensive appliances, we took out the AC and heat, the expensive sink that you don't need, the oven and the stove, which is way too expensive, a table leg, which I still regret paying that much, the running boards that you don't need. So making a van look nice and fully functional is actually pretty affordable. Don't get me wrong, $9,000 is still $9,000, and for a lot of people, including myself, that is still a lot of money. But it's doable if you can budget accordingly. Like I said, if you're more curious on my profit margins, I have that video linked down below. Moving forward, I'm probably going to try to get closer to this number because it really cut into my profits the second time around. And I just feel like there's some things that I went all out on and I didn't really need to. And because my expenses were so high, I had to drive the price even higher, which took me longer to sell a van. So that just about wraps up my video. Like I said, there's a link down below talking about my profit margins. There's also a link to the tour of this van, which I think you should check out because this van is super sweet. There's a lot more to come. I'm going to do the electrical for dummies, plumbing for dummies, and I have a really exciting project coming up that I can't wait to get started on, and I'm going to record the whole process, so that's going to be super fun. If I helped you out, guys, or if I helped you save some money, or maybe even inspire you to do something like this yourself, please just do me a favor and like the video down below, and if you really liked it, subscribe. That's all I got, guys. Thanks for watching. Paul Scheer here. Adios.